Hi, I'm Cindy, mom here at Rising Above Autism. And Teddy's good friend Nina asked me to answer a few questions for her for a class project, and I thought these questions were really good to share with everyone. So I thought I would just post it on our YouTube channel and let everyone check out some of the answers. Maybe it would help another family struggling with autism or struggling with a diagnosis of a child. And maybe it would just open some other people's eyes as to what a family with so much autism going on deals with on a daily basis. So let's get started. And I have to apologize, I'm hiding in the basement. We have had 2 snow days, and today the kids are off school and they're off for another 2 days. So it's been really loud at our house, so I'm hiding in the basement. So you're going to hear creaking floors from our old house and the furnace and the cats and everything else. So I went to the quietest part of the house and it's still not that quiet. So sorry about that. Okay, first question, the name and the age of the child. So I have 4 kids with autism. All 4 of my kids have autism. Teddy is the oldest. She's 21. She has Asperger's, which is high functioning form of autism. Teddy went from being nonverbal until she was about age 6 and in a specialized center-based autism program to going to a special art high school. And it was an art charter high school. And she was salutatorian. She did so great at the school. And now she goes to College for Creative Studies, which is an art college where she studies furniture design so that she can learn all about blacksmithing, metalsmithing, woodworking, pottery, glass blowing. I know I'm forgetting weaving. And she's loving it. She loves everything about her school. Except the price. It's insanely expensive, but it's the perfect college for Teddy. My next one is Madison, who will turn 20 tomorrow, or since she's a leap day baby, 5, depending on how you look at it. Madison has severe nonverbal and sometimes aggressive autism. She's been known to get very aggressive at times, and then she's always very apologetic afterwards. You can tell she feels bad, but she just can't control the rage a lot of times. She's doing so much better this year. We're very lucky that she's able to cope better, and she really is trying very hard. Next is Annabella, or Ellie Lou, and she is 15, and she also is functionally nonverbal, aggressive, and has severe autism. She is my loudest. She's been screaming all day today. Right now, currently, she is the one struggling the most, but they all take their turns. And so we're just trying to find ways to help Ellie cope, and today find ways to help mommy cope. And then Charlie is our youngest, and he's 12. He'll be 13 in May. And again, functionally nonverbal, aggressive at times. And when I say aggressive, he's put his head through 19 windows and lots of walls and other things. Not that Madison and Ellie are innocent. They've each, broken out about 5 or 6 windows themselves, and holes in the walls and everything else. That's a side of autism that I hate. It is so destructive. Ellie on a daily basis is throwing toys and throwing things and sorry, cat, and is breaking pencils and chucking them at people, and it just happens. When she screams, then that sets Charlie off, and then he's flipping out and he's trying to break things, and it's very hard to have a normal life when your kids are breaking things and throwing them and throwing tantrums, and it's very hard. And then it's very hard when people are telling you, well, if you were a better parent, or if you were stricter, trust me, I'm strict, or if you just did things differently. Everyone has an opinion on it, but let me tell you, nobody would volunteer to live this life. So it becomes very hard, and we'll get to a little bit more of that later. What kind of relationship do you share with your child? I I feel I have a very close relationship with all 4 of the kids. Teddy's my best friend, whether she likes it or not. I want to do everything with her. It bugs me that she has her own life now, I'll be honest. I miss her when she's at school, and I know I'm bugging her when I text her or call her or whatever, because she's becoming independent, and I'm so proud of her for that. Madison and Ellie and Charlie accept to go to school, pretty much don't leave my side. They're at home with me all the time. Charlie is my snuggle bug. He just wants to cuddle, and he's such a ladies' man. He wants to, you know, kiss and hug and tickle and play. Ellie does on her own terms, and Madison actually does like when you play with her, but she likes it on her own terms too. So there's just so much that the kids can cope with or take at times, sensory wise, noise wise, you know, whatever. So, but we have great relationship. I can read body language on the kids and tell you what's going on with them. I've had to develop like ways of figuring out what's wrong with the kids. So by watching Madison's behavior, if she slams her head a certain way on the floor, I know that means ear infection, and I know to take her to urgent care. If she's calmly dropping herself to the ground and not hitting her head first, then it's a behavioral thing, it's not a physical thing. So in order to be able to read those things, you have to be super close to your kids and know every little aspect of what they need. They can't tell you what's going on with them, they can't tell you how they feel, so you have to really understand their world. The next question, how has interaction with the child made an impact on you? Well, since all of my kids have autism, the impact has been humongous. It has changed my life completely, in good and bad ways. I now have an extremely thick skin. People sit there and point, whisper, outright talk about you or your child right in front of you. There's no filters. They think it doesn't matter. It does. Just because they're a special needs child or a special needs parent, it matters. We hear you, we understand. My kids, even though they're nonverbal, they understand when someone's giving negative comments or pointing or, you know, mocking, whatever it is. So be kind, because they get it. And then they act accordingly a lot of times. So it definitely has given me a thick skin. It has also made me super overly protective. The thing that I didn't expect, because this is a new thing, is that I've become a hermit. I used to take the kids everywhere. There were no excuses. We took them out to restaurants several times a week. We took them to Disney once a year. We went on trips everywhere, and the kids were always in tow. Now, because behaviors are worse and because they're bigger, and I can't just pick up a kid who's having a meltdown and carry him out of the room, we just don't go places. We hardly go to restaurants anymore. We don't go out in public. I get tired of the questions and the stares and everyone else's parenting advice. I get that people think they are helping, and sometimes it is, because I do rely on advice from a lot of different parents. But sometimes it just comes across as criticism, and it's very hard to take all the time. Anyone that knows me will tell you that I'm a really good parent. I am all in when it comes to my kids, and I don't need that extra criticism all the time. But everyone has an opinion that they think I need to hear. So it makes it extremely hard. All of the negatives make me want to cower and stay at home. And yeah, there's some depression. There's such loneliness. I can't even begin to explain the loneliness. Even, you know, the places that we used to go with our friends, we don't go there anymore. We hardly see our friends. It puts you in this place where you just think, all I have left is autism, and that's all you ever talk about then to other people. And sometimes I feel like a broken record telling people, but I also want to get the word out and share awareness and have people see that these guys, they're still people. They're still little kids. They're still young adults. They just happen to have autism. They may happen to have to communicate a different way or not hear loud noises, whatever. But that's why we share our story. That's why we're doing this video and telling people constantly all about autism, even though it's hard on us. It really is. Sometimes we just want to be a regular family. But it is what it is. So how has the interaction with this child impacted the child or the family members of the child? The hardest part, I think, is for Teddy, because I think a lot of times she feels bad. She feels bad that she gets a break and gets to go away to college, and Dad gets to go to work, and I am here constantly with the kids and don't really get a break. I think that was hard for Teddy. I think the other part that's hard is her senior year. I had to miss a lot of functions and a lot of things that I always was there for her, and it's not fair to Teddy, but at the same time, Madison was really aggressive and Charlie was really aggressive that year and her freshman year of college, and I just didn't feel that the helpers that were at the house would be safe if they didn't have me there as backup, because there was so much aggression going on. So Teddy always says she doesn't mind, but it's still not fair to her that I always have to like help with Madison or help with one of the other kids. To understand that better, if you have seen the Julia Roberts movie, I'm trying to think, Wonder is the name of the movie. The relationship with the mother and the daughter is definitely me and Teddy. A perfect example, the daughter stays home from school and Julia Roberts says it's just gonna be a you and me day, and then the school calls and says your son is sick again, you have to come get him. That always happens when Teddy and I have something planned. The school calls and says you have to come pick up Madison, or Ellie's doing this or Charlie's doing that. It's to the point where Teddy doesn't want to go to Hobby Lobby with me because every time we're at Hobby Lobby I get a call and we have to drop everything and run and pick up a kid. So I think the worst impact is for her. It impacts the rest of us as well. Mine and Rick's marriage suffers. There really isn't a marriage anymore. We are partners in parenting. There's no time to focus on us. We've been very lucky. This year we got to go away on a trip to Disney with my parents, just adults only. That was amazing. The second we're off the plane, we're back to being, caretakers and parents again, and back to no marriage again. It's the stress of a marriage when you have so much autism going on is, I can't even explain. It's like we're not married at all. We try to make time for each other, but again, like with Teddy, as soon as we do, a school calls or something's going on, or it's hard. It's very hard. It's hard on the other kids. Like I said, when Ellie's screaming, Charlie is set off, Madison's set off. So it's hard for the kids to know anything but autism because that's all they really see every day. That's all they see at school, that's all they see at home. So it's really hard for them to change behaviors if that's what you're used to. And it's hard to cope with those behaviors if you've always got somebody, on the bus screaming or whatever. There's Ellie screaming right now. It has helped a few ways. Madison was on the bus one time and another student was having a meltdown and was screaming at the top of their lungs, and Madison's just smiling away, and the bus driver kept saying how proud he was, but he had had Ellie years before, and so he said, I know it's from practice having Ellie as her sister. So so there's some positives too. It teaches coping skills and things like that. Let's see, and there it goes again. How has the special needs of the child impacted the home, classroom setting, or church setting? Unfortunately, we don't go to church anymore. because there's just, you know, we were going to a church out of state. That's impossible now because we have a hard time going back on the 3-hour drive back and forth each week to go to our church, even to visit family. But we just don't feel comfortable going to church and not being able to sit through a whole sermon, or finding a place that would be able to, like if they had a nursery or a special needs room, would be able to handle the kids' special needs. So we just don't, you know, unfortunately. As far as the classroom setting, Madison, Ellie, and Charlie, all three go to MISD, which is a center-based autism-only program. So all the kids there have autism. They have amazing teachers. We're very fortunate. They have teachers that really, really get it, that really, really care, think outside the box. So we're really lucky. But even with that, we have days where Madison's just not riding the bus. That's just it. She's not. I have to go pick her up. Or Ellie is just out of control. This year, I haven't had to pick her up, but other years I've had to pick her up several times because she was just so out of control. And there's another little scream. So Charlie, 1 year, had a few times I had to pick him up because he was getting out of control too. He was getting too aggressive and hurting himself or if you watch some of our other videos, throwing poop and things like that, which is like a last resort frustration thing for kids with autism. He can't get his point across verbally, so he's gonna just use whatever he has left, and apparently that was it. So we have behaviors that most other parents don't have to even deal with or have never even thought of. It's such a different life. It's yeah. What kind of accommodations are made to include this child in the home setting, classroom setting, or church setting? So we try to do everything as a family, which right now means that we don't go very many places, but we always try when we do things to take everybody. We're having to change that thought process because we can't go everywhere and make everybody successful. So what we do at home is we have schedules like crazy. We do homework. We read books with the kids. We try to do certain types of outings where the kids will be successful. So Ellie is really good helping to scan groceries at Sam's Club. So a lot of the times when Rick is going to Sam's Club, Ellie gets to go with him, and she's in charge of the phone, and she's very good at scanning every single, item before we put it in the cart. Charlie gets to go to Walmart. Madison does not do well in stores, so we can't do that, and we're trying to do things where she is successful. So she might have a very small outing to a store or whatever. They all do well in restaurants, certain restaurants, and now that we're not on a gluten-free diet right now, it's a little bit easier to go to restaurants without the kids trying to sneak food off other people's plates and things like that. So we do like to go to places like Fuddruckers where we know everybody's going to be successful. We've had a few rough spots here and there with restaurants, but that's pretty much our most successful type of outing that we have. So we do try to do those kind of things. We have adapted our house to look like a classroom. I have a calendar wall, so the kids have to every day put the things on, like what the weather is, what yesterday, today, and tomorrow is, the year, stuff like that. Most of our games are educational games, turn taking, word building, things like that. We've had to take away technology because it makes the kids so aggressive and frustrated. So we've just started reintroducing technology, but it's on our terms. And so like Andrea, our helper, has been working with the kids with technology, but it's always Andrea's controlling the iPad. They don't just get free time with it. we have to adapt things that way. We have word schedules everywhere. We have the arts and crafts that we do are specialized for their abilities. And we've tried to do some art therapy and things like that. Right now, our schedule that we've been doing with the kids is getting very burnt out, and the kids have memorized all of our books. We have so many books. They love books, but they have them memorized. So we're trying to get different books that they can read, because they're like at a first and second grade level with reading, and we have so many books, but they just are getting bored with that. So we're trying to find ways to spice it up a little bit. So if anybody has ideas, please let me know. We're going to start working on some more daily living skills so that kids can start folding laundry. They've been sorting socks and things like that, but they need to start folding their own clothes, and they need to start making meals. They've been warming up their own meals, but now they need to start working on the stove. And I'm nervous about all of that because I'm worried about safety, because they don't have any idea about safety at all. They would just put their arm in the flame of the stove or pick up a sharp knife. And so I have issues with that. But we're gonna do it, baby steps. We're gonna work on that. So they need to be able to do things like shower themselves. None of them shower themselves. We do it. None of them manage money. They can count money, but they couldn't tell you if a car is worth 50 cents or $5,000. They just don't have that. Like, it's almost like they just don't care really with that, but they just don't understand that concept. So we're still doing all of that kind of stuff for them. Honestly, like everything health-wise and just everyday living we're doing for them. They do chores every day. Charlie brings down the garbage. Ellie gets ice. Charlie feeds the dog. Madison cleans the sink in the bathroom and the mirrors, and the kids all wash windows. They wash the middles of the windows, not around the edges of the windows, but we're working at it. We're getting better. They vacuum, they can sweep, things like that. But we're not at age 20, we're not at a place where they're independent enough to live on their own. With my future goals, eventually, hopefully, they'll be able to live on their own with assistance, but we need to work on those things so that they will be successful at being able to live on their own. Okay, next question. What have been the successful interactions of life with the child? I don't know if you mean as far as people or just successes that each kid has. The one thing I will say is that with this severe of autism, every little baby step we consider a success. So Ellie being able to go to the grocery store is a success. Charlie being able to go to Walmart and not have a meltdown because he can't buy everything he wants that's full of sugar is a success. So we love those kind of successes. Things that I think are like our biggest successes are a few years ago when we could take kids to like the Pistons game. It took us 6 tries, but by the 6th Pistons game, we finally made it through an entire game without somebody having a meltdown, or as Ellie did, spitting on someone else, and we had to leave. Madison threw a fit and almost knocked one of our helpers all the way down the bleachers, and we had to leave. So by the 6th time, and we finally got to stay the whole time, that's a success. We used to have a team that would help plunge and make money for Special Olympics, and the kids would go watch, and we made it the whole time. That's a success. Going out to dinner and being able to stay the whole time, that's a success. Things that that we never thought the kids would be able to do and now can. I'm trying to think of some other examples. Those are all successes. So things that I'm looking forward to in the future to hopefully be able to do with the kids, because most people with autism are unemployed. I've decided that each one of my kids needs to own their own business. That's just the way it's got to go, because then they don't have to conform to someone else's rules. Not that I'm against that. It's just that where we are right now, I don't think that would work. I don't think that they would ever be successful at that. So we're gonna try to start a business for each kid. Madison loves to paint these clay ornaments that Teddy and I cut. So I think her business is going to be painting these or glazing these ornaments that will fire and be able to sell. If she is able to sell enough of them to just pay for her supplies, that's a success. That's all I'm looking for. Same with Ellie. When I'm making t-shirts, she loves to come down and help me with it. So that's the business that I think I want to start for her, is being able to make t-shirts and she can sell them online. Charlie, haven't figured that out yet, but he's just little. He's only 12. He loves to write the cast and the director's names of every single movie. Like, I feel like if he didn't have autism, that's what he would have done with his life. Madison definitely would have been a singer, actress, diva. That's totally what she would have done in her life if she didn't have autism. Ellie, I'm not so sure. I see her as wanting really hard to be an artist. So I don't know. That probably is the direction she would have gone, as artist. Or drill sergeant, not really sure, but the kid likes to be in control, so not sure. Another thing that I see that I want for them for the future is for them to each live by themselves. They're going to need huge amounts of help, and so there's group homes. I've heard horror stories. We know ourselves that hospitals are not good with anyone with special needs that's nonverbal. We've had to experience that ourselves. We've had to, when Charlie and Madison were at their roughest, we had to take them to the ER. The problem is any emergency room that cannot talk to the child, cannot communicate to the child and see what's really going on, they just assume, oh, it's their autism, and they miss all the physical things that might be wrong with them. So when we took Charlie, he was in an emergency room for 8 days. Can you imagine? An autistic child in an emergency room for 8 days. It gets worse. Madison was put in the emergency room the same day. We told them about her earaches. They kind of blew that off. We didn't see an ENT for 4 days while we were in the ER for 3 weeks. Unbelievable, unacceptable. After 8 days, Charlie was taken to the only psych hospital that I did not want him to go to, that now the county won't even send people to because of all the abuse and sexual assaults that are going on at this psych hospital. So Charlie was there for a couple weeks. Madison was sent home after 3 weeks in the ER, and then she was accepted into this hospital. We had no other choices at the time. So we tried it for 2 weeks. She just kind of laid around and didn't do anything, so it was no big deal. Charlie was given all kinds of medical cocktails that, horrible. And then both of the kids were put on these horrible meds. Charlie had to go back in because he broke someone's nose. So he went back to Harbor Oaks, and just horrible whole month that he was there, that the only thing that came out of it was he was on these horrible meds that gave him horrible side effects. Happy to report, he's off of all of those now, and Madison's off of most of those. So we're doing a lot better. Anyway, the whole point of bringing that up was, through that whole experience, we discovered after they got out of the hospital that Madison was having ear problems. That's why she was so aggressive. And so now she has tubes and she's doing much better. Charlie, after all of that, we went to 4 different hospitals, And most of the hospitals blew us off and said, yeah, it's his autism. It's just his autism. That's a behavior that comes with autism. Finally, a great hospital told us, you know what, he has stretched his colon from being so constipated, he's in pain. Once we figured that out, figured out a solution on how to make that not happen again, he's been doing great. So it's really hard for me to think of the kids' future when I'm not there to stick up for them or to advocate for them as to how other people are going to treat them or care for them. So in my head, I want to have a little community full of tiny homes that each person who's able to can live in who has autism. Teddy has already been designing these tiny homes so that her siblings can have some form of independence. They'll have all kinds of safeties in them, you know. And we talk about that in another video when Teddy's talking about the designs that she's working on. But we want them to be able to, you know, have friends, have a life, have other experiences that everybody else has, have friendships that can be meaningful, not just the kid that you see at school but you don't really know his name because he's in your class but nobody talks. So this is one of our steps into doing that. We want to build their job sites right there next to their tiny homes. You know, these are things that we're discussing and we're trying to figure out how to get funding for, because we don't see a lot of good options out there. The only other option is they live with me the rest of their lives, which of course they can do. But I'm to the point where I'm tired of my things getting broken and I want one little space that's just mine, that, you know, the kids can't go in and break everything and demolish family heirlooms and, you know, things like that. So I want to be able to have a life too. I want to be able to do some things that I dreamed of that I have put on hold because I wanted to be a mom. I'm not saying I'm upset about that. I just, you know, I'm getting older. I need to start doing a couple things that make me happy too, because being the caretaker, the main caretaker, is really burning me out right now. And that happens a lot. You hear that from a lot of special ed teachers. I'm not saying anything bad about teachers. I love all of our teachers that we have. But those teachers get to go home too. They get to retire. This is my life, the rest of my life. And so I need to start thinking about those kind of things, because it's actually impacting my health a lot. I've been having a lot of issues. I need to be able to have something positive going on, as well as being able to care for my kids. So sorry, got off topic on that one. So we kind of answered number 9. What are the challenges with the relationship with this child? Like I said, the destruction, with the kids being so destructive. Nobody wants you to come over to their house, and I don't blame them. We don't get invited to birthday parties and things like that because you don't want to have that kid that might bite somebody else or have a meltdown or break something of yours. So we don't get invited to those kind of things. We don't go out in public as much as we should. We don't get to do things that I was so looking forward to, like enjoying holidays. My kids don't get it. They don't care. Christmas time, they like to open their presents, but even then, Madison used to open a present, throw it, open a present, throw it. It was like a chore to open presents. So you just felt defeated for everything that you put an effort into. I kind of sometimes feel bad. I get to see like my friends doing these amazing things with their kids, and if I try those things, they don't work, or my kids just don't care, or, you know, I put all this effort into it, and why? So I feel very defeated a lot of the time. My kids don't do it on purpose. It's just how they're wired, you know. Doesn't make it any easier. Doesn't make it so that I feel more like a mom. Right now, I feel like a house manager, a caretaker. I am in more meetings than you could imagine. We have IEPs and behavior meetings at school. I meet with a behaviorist once a week. I meet with we have 3 case manager meetings a month, at least. Some months we've had more. The longest case manager meeting I ever had was 5 hours for one kid. That was one kid. I'm constantly in meetings. We have rec therapy. We used to have speech therapy after school, and occupational therapy, and music therapy, and art therapy, and I feel like all we're doing is therapies. And then when we come home, we've tried to build this curriculum that, like I said, is now in a rut. But we're doing the best that we possibly can to make them more independent, hopefully, and just be able to catch up a little bit on speech and catch up a little bit on math skills and reading skills and things like that. So it makes it very hard. What are some pieces of advice that you would give someone in working with a child with this special need? So we have a really cute video that all of our helpers had done a year or 2 back, and it was giving advice on working with special needs, because their view is different than mine, because they're the caretakers as well. But so if you get a chance, watch that. But my advice would be, just remember that they're people too. Remember that, yes, this might be a little kid with autism, but don't say, oh, I'm sorry, he has autism. How can we help that? How can we make him more independent? One of the best pieces of advice that I ever heard was from one of my neighbors, and she said, don't let them get away with what you can't let them get away with later. So her daughter is now, I think, almost 70, and she said, one of these days she's going to be bigger than me, and I have to teach her right from wrong now. So that's one big thing that I've been trying to teach the kids. It's hard, but you just can't give up. My other biggest thing is always be consistent. If you're going to, and this is good for every parent, not just special needs, but they really want boundaries a lot of times, and they just have trouble if you give them boundaries one day and not another day. You know, they like routine. They like everything to be the same, very consistent. So if you give them that, that's one less thing that they have to obsess over, you know, be confused and frustrated about. Just love them. You know, even when Ellie's screaming and flipping out, and I still want to just go up and snuggle with her sometimes. Not always, because she's a biter, but you know, if you're gonna lose your mind, walk outside, take a break. I go out in my greenhouse and I am out there with my tomato plants. I'll go out with the dog. You know, I'm still in the yard, I'm still in the house or whatever. I'll sneak down the basement if I can. It's hard at our house because I always feel guilty. I don't want anybody to get hurt. So if one of the kids is melting down, I have to be in the middle of it. But when that's over and when everybody's calm, I try to take a minute for me just to breathe or veg out, put on, I'm a Disney freak, so I'll put on a video, you know, about Disney or something like that, just to like calm down and relax and be able to pull it all together. I saw a great quote that an escalated adult cannot help an escalated child. So true. You have to stay very calm. When I'm working with one of the kids, I don't show any emotion, unless I'm trying to show them that I'm upset from their behavior. I just try to show them that this is not okay. We're not going to do this, and I'll wait until you can calm down. And if I have to, you know, go to other extremes, I will, to get them to see, like, we're done. If Ellie's screaming, I will take her headphones away, because I'm going to tell her, you have to hear it if I have to hear it. That's one of the extremes I'm talking about. I know she needs her headphones for sensory, but at the same time, after hearing 2 hours straight of screaming, I'm done. And she has the horror movie blood curdling scream that can shatter glass. I'm done. So then she has to hear it as well. I do those things to teach her, this is not fair. You need to pull it together too. You know, I need to hold her to a certain standard, but I also need to understand her needs. I get that, but it's hard some days. We're all human, right? So I don't think this video really answered a lot of questions now that I'm thinking back of how I just answered things, but hopefully it'll help Nina with her project, and hopefully it will open some other people's eyes to what autism's really like. Have a great day.